Hello. I don't know how many of you come across the excellent Tom Harwood. Tom Harwood started life off really in, well, I was going to say started life off as a reporter for Guido Fawkes, but in fact he started life off, I think, in Cambridge, went to the Pierce School, then to Durham, and he is now a reporter on GB News, GBTV, and actually one of the positive things there, well worth watching. And his interview today with Laurence Fox is staggeringly brilliant, and I just like, if you get an opportunity, look it up on YouTube and have a look at it, because it is so clear. So it's about whether or not we are going to have a vaccine passport, the possibility of that. I think there's not a possibility, I think there's a probability of that. I think it will happen fairly shortly. We have people like the Prime Minister saying jabs will help, not hinder. He's being evasive when he's being asked, are we going to have a vaccine passport? We've got Gove saying that those people who have not been vaccinated are selfish. Boris, I think, has called people nuts for not being vaccinated. I know many people. I've had conversations with people who have not supported the vaccine and who have not themselves been vaccinated. I have been vaccinated, but I feel that at a national level we've not had this debate. So from that point of view, I'm very sympathetic to Laurence Fox's position, and Laurence Fox is an articulate and extremely impressive individual, always worth listening to, whether he's right or wrong, whether you share his opinion or not. He's always worth listening to. He wants to know, first of all, whether or not the vaccine passport would even be legitimate, whether it would discriminate against people who don't have it, and whether it's right for a government in a free society to mandate people to have a vaccine. Well, this is a debate people had in the 19th century, particularly in France, over the smallpox vaccine. It's a debate those people who were advocating freedom lost, and today we have no smallpox. Sometimes we have to take drastic measures, but we need that debate. And when it comes to a vaccine passport, this isn't another thing which can be rushed out on a whim, I think. We need to know what are the limits of this document. How long is it going to last? Where is it actually going to be used? But so far, he's right. We've had no debate. Now, we've got the big issue that I think is about kickstarting our economy and making sure that we save those industries which so far have been decimated. And maybe I'm using that word advisedly, literally. They barely have 10%. They've lost at least 10% of their value. So they have been genuinely decimated. In fact, that their value may have been compromised even more. The theatres, the cinemas, hospitality, aviation, nightclubs, a lot of these things that appeal particularly to a younger clientele. Now, it's quite true that the vaccines have been taken up by older age groups quite enthusiastically, and that it's being and that the vaccine is being resisted in this country, in the UK, quite a lot by younger groups. But we've got to think about continuing to protect older people, particularly in care homes, and the vaccine demonstrably protects people up to 95%, giving people up to 95% protection. Now, yes, we know people can also suffer ordinary flu, you can contract that, and that also. The one point in the debate where Tom was not so clued up, ordinary flu can also be a killer, particularly of older people. But that's really his only failing in a brilliant debate. So not only do we need to restart these basic industries, we need to restart the basic functioning of the NHS. And maybe we've shown a way for some industries to be even more evasive and even more unaccountable, particularly banks and those agencies which now depend almost wholly on telephones. We need to make sure the NHS is pulled back from falling over that cliff edge. We need to pull it back from the brink. We need to get it doing what it was set up to do, treating people with basic problems, treating people with cancer and so on. And the vaccine and a vaccine passport can assuredly do that. And one of the things that Laurence Fox puts forward is that the vaccines haven't passed all their tests. And Tom is simply brilliant at this point. Yes, they have. Yes, they have. The ones we are using have passed all 3 phases of their clinical trials. It's true that they have not yet completed their full trials. Those full trials will be finished in about 2 years' time when they finish their post-trial studies. But they have completed their clinical trials. So there is confusion over this. Now, rather entertainingly at this point in the debate, when Tom advances this fact, and he's fairly decisive about it, and he quotes those vaccines which have not completed their trial, particularly JMJ and Novavax, and says, for example, AstraZeneca and Pfizer absolutely completed their trials and are being used on that basis. And Laurence Fox says, so, should I get a Tom Harwood tweet approval before I say anything? And Tom says, well, I think that'd be very useful. Tom is not going to be waylaid by a bit of well-placed sarcasm, and it just so good-humoured and so brilliantly brilliantly staged. And I take my hat off to them both. But the only way out of this mess, the only way out of the COVID lockdown, the only way out of the pandemic, really, is an efficacious and fully functioning vaccine. And so, and so that is what we need to encourage. And if that means we need to use a vaccine passport, we should. By the way, I don't know whether you've seen this, but COVID vaccines, COVID vaccine passports would not be something new. We've had them in the past. This one is from Italy in 1611 and 1612, proving that somebody has been vaccinated and can therefore travel without quarantining. So it gives one this bit of paper going back to the 17th and 18th centuries, gave people freedom of movement, and that is something that we badly need. So yes, maybe one could argue in the 21st century we should have thought of something a little bit more modern, but we haven't. We are using a lot of techniques which were devised in the past: quarantine, vaccination, and vaccine passports. Maybe we should be saying we should have something better. Maybe we should. But until we do, until we have that debate, and until we have clearly devised something better, we should use what has been tried and tested in the past. This has been tried and tested. This works. So I'm afraid I'm all for COVID vaccine passports, if that opens up our theatres, if that opens up those businesses which require people to enter crowded rooms, and if we don't do this, those businesses will collapse, those businesses will fail, and it'll be very difficult to get them kick-started again afterwards. We need to think. We need to think of other people, we need to think of other businesses, and we need to move forward as fast as possible. And if we haven't got better ideas than the ideas of the past, I'm afraid are the ideas we're going to have to use. But as for Laurence's idea that the government hasn't had this debate and is being faintly tyrannical in the way it offers these knee-jerk decisions, he is right. He's absolutely right. And should we be taking advice from somebody who... Did you see this video the other day of Boris talking to the police about his dog and how his dog has got has got an obsession for his trouser leg? Well, I'm inclined to think that our pets take after their owners, and it strikes me that if one doesn't have a particularly creditable personal life, it's very difficult to take a moral stand. This is probably why it was so difficult to get rid of Mr. Hancock when he fouled up and had his hands on somebody else's bottom in public, on camera, and has proven time and time again he cannot be trusted. Really, there is a good case for saying that we need to have people in power who are trustworthy. But at the moment, we have to make do with what we've got, and we have to do it as well as we possibly can. So, COVID passports are a proposition, and I think they're one we're going to have to embrace, what come what may. So do follow my do subscribe, and do ring the bell, and also check out Tom Harwood and Laurence Fox's debate, because it puts things so clearly. Bye bye.